Hey, what's good, YouTube? Welcome back to the Brown Jet. Welcome to Sunday stack number 6. Honestly, I thought about not even doing it today, but honestly, I need to do this sort of consistently week in, week out, because I do think there will be some repetitive stuff tonight, but some stuff that I think you need to think about. And not just that, but I also want, just gonna increase the mic's volume, but I also want you guys to really consider, are you doing the most you can right now? So let's get into it. Before we do, as always, make sure you follow me on all socials, hit the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel, follow me on Twitter, and for the first time, we are streaming live on Abstract. So you guys know that I do believe that the Abstract token generation event, which is slated for Q4 of this year, I think that and Hyperliquid, Hyper EVM, basically Hyperliquid Season 2, are your two biggest opportunities in the space beyond just sort of building your spot portfolio and whatever, right? So we're going to stream on Abstract because I should be getting some XP. We're going to find out exactly what it's like. Like, I want to get my numbers up. I really was sort of fading Abstract for too long. I'm basically gold tier. Want to get that up to, I think it's platinum next. We'll see how much streaming does. You can stream a ton of games. So guys, just get on here. And by the way, let's be honest here. I got like 10 or 15 followers on Abstract. So every single person starts off from the same spot. So you have no excuse for not applying to become a streamer. Go in there, stream some games, talk whatever. You don't even have to have your camera on. Definitely recommend it, okay? Now, if you want extra coaching, guidance, support, if you're going through this whole thing, you're like, I need some guidance, whatever, you have two different options. One, you can schedule a private video call with me. This is really to make a plan. Or you can join the Web3 Secret Society, where I occasionally and routinely will post what I think the best opportunities will be for you. And there's a really massive play going on right now in the Web3 Secret Society that I cannot share here until it's over, just to sort of be fair to them. Okay. Now tonight, as usual, we got some topics, smaller amount of topics than usual, but still relevant topics nonetheless. So we'll start off with the market update. I'm then going to talk a bit about sort of the summer and sort of, once again, are you doing everything you can to set yourself up for success? There's also InfoFi farming. So we'll go back to Kaito and others. Very, very important, I think, especially for many of you who are looking to build a bag, because it's not lost on me that, for me, this is my third cycle. I know many of you, this might be your first cycle or your second. You don't have that much working capital. That means you can't jump into every opportunity. You can't just drop money on a pudgy penguin. You can't you can't buy like things that, maybe I take for granted sometimes because of the capital requirements, right? Well, this InfoFi farming is your great equalizer. So definitely do that. And obviously going to answer your questions at the end. Just do me a favor. If you make a comment on something or you're asking something like a question, please in your text, write what you're commenting on, because by the time I get to answer your question, I will have no idea if there's no context. So please, if you want me to answer your question, do that. Otherwise, I won't be able to. Okay. So we'll start off with the market. Oh, wow. Like in the last 10 minutes, the market has gone up because it was 108,000. Bitcoin was 108,300. I know because I bought a bit on Binance before the stream went live. But if we compare this to last week, really not that much change. We're still range bound, which that's normal, right? One, we're in the weekend, so we did have a bit of a pump to the end of the week, and then it started coming back down midweek we were pumping like around Thursday, I think. And then Friday we started coming back down. And obviously Friday was July 4th. So that was the American Independence Day, right? And obviously the markets were closed, so less volume. Friday acted like Saturday and Sunday. We'll be very interested to see how Monday opens up, right? I think futures are out. I don't know. Maybe they are, maybe they're not. We'll see if they're green. And if they are, typically that will drag crypto prices up with it, which would make a lot of sense. Now, I'm not going to go into my portfolio details because you already know, but really my biggest thing is to make sure I'm always looking at the price of Bitcoin. I think you should be doing that too. When it comes to buying opportunities, like we're in neutral, so it's not the worst place to buy. You definitely don't want to buy in greed, extreme greed, which is where most people buy. You want to buy in fear and extreme fear especially, and obviously neutral is okay as long as you're not positioned. My whole thing here is I'm never going to tell you not to dollar cost average or buy and get positioned. But if you already have a good enough position on an asset, just wait for fear and extreme fear. If you don't have the positioning, then I say, okay, fine. You can go in neutral and buy. Remember, nothing I say is financial advice. Remember, I'm just a guy on YouTube. So crypto market's been doing good. As you know, Bitcoin, Ethereum, and Hype and their sort of beta are my biggest plays. And then I have like a bit of alts, rounding errors, and whatever. Ethereum has been doing somewhat well, 247. You guys remember when I sold basically all my ETH at around 2,800, went down to 1,500. I think it went to 1,400 at the bottom. And now we're starting to come back that sort of U shape. So like this is the time to be positioned. And I have been very steadfast about this in our private group, right? Last summer, like literally it was end of July, early August, when we had sort of that whole Japanese carry trade the first week of August. Markets completely nuked. Solana went from 200 something to like 130, 120. ETH went out 2,200. I remember being so steadfast on the importance of buying there, right? It also lined up very well with sort of fear and greed. But beyond that, it was just massive red candles nonstop to the point where people did not want to buy. Every time the market drops a lot, people's instinct is always like, well, I don't want to buy too early. I don't want to catch a falling knife. But they'd rather jump in front of a speeding train. It just doesn't make any sense. So this is something I really think that you guys sort of need to be sort of thinking about and focusing on, because there are lots of opportunities for you, right? Like, yes, you can be in the spot market and not doing anything else, right? Remember, long time ago, that's all you could do. You would just buy Bitcoin, you would just buy ETH, you buy whatever, 50 or 100 assets were available on the exchange of choice, and you just hope it would go up. You'd stare at your screen or whatever. Now we're spoiled. Now we can go and sort of trade stuff, like beyond sort of tokens. We're going in, going on chain, getting involved on certain platforms, right? There's a lot more different vectors. But with those vectors come a lot of traps, but also a lot of lucrative opportunities. I'm going to talk about one in a second. Let's go through Dr. Profit's big Sunday report. So this is sort of the chart. Not much has changed since last we discussed. Basically, we've talked about this before already. So this is the region we want to get to, which is 113,000, 114,000 Bitcoin. Would you believe that at a price of 9,000, we have worse vibes in crypto Twitter than we did when Bitcoin was sitting like over here at 17,000. At 17,000, when it started rallying, these are most people in crypto Twitter, which I'm assuming many of you are checking out. They were down significantly. They bought altcoins. If you look at sort of others has done very, very poorly, right? Altcoins are basically very close to bottoming, like bottoming in the sense of altcoins as a cluster are very close to their bottom, which is actually very, very good, right? If you look at others, it literally looks like it's basically at the bottom. Now, that also means that people have taken significant losses, because if you guys have been following along since December of 23, when I was doing a lot more airdrop coverage and I was sharing my portfolio, people's biggest comment was the brown gent's puss, because the brown gent doesn't buy anything but Bitcoin, ETH, and Sol, right? At the time I said I didn't want to buy altcoins. I had like 10, 15% in altcoins because I didn't think the risk was worth it. And it really ended up saving me. It saved me massively. And then most people who call me an idiot or a pussy or whatever, well, I don't say they're broke, but they're not really around, right? So what do we have to look forward to this week? And by the way, I share Dr. Profit's information. I think it's very, very useful. Obviously, as always, all of this is a game of probability, right? So we don't know what will actually happen because, as you know, I live in Dubai. Across the water is Iran, right? A few weeks ago, we were ready to go up, and all of a sudden there was a conflict, right, between Israel and Iran. That is now somewhat solved from what I understand, but any of these things can happen, right? So we have to be able to pivot when information comes out. Don't just sit there and go, well, the brown gent said he was bullish last week, and then X, Y, and Z happened, and he's no longer bullish. The guy's a fraud. You can't think like that. People who think like that are stupid. And you guys are not low IQ. And you know how I know that? You guys are watching this video on a Sunday instead of going out there drinking or doing whatever else. Okay? And by the way, I want you guys to recognize something. If you take a look at the number of participants that have been around now, compare that to March or Feb or January, you should see how much it's come down. And the reason for that is people don't like being around in tough times. When times are tough, people just sort of give up. They don't want to put the time in. Those of you who are sitting here and not giving up, putting the time, making sure, hey, I know it's tough. Look, I feel the exhaustion. I feel so exhausted. But it doesn't matter because this is a marathon. And once we are done, once we have collected our money, once we've gotten the sort of increase, the breakthrough all-time highs, and sort of the altcoin season, obviously in new form, that we've been waiting for, once we've cashed out, then we can take our break. But until then, it's foolish to sit there and think we're going to just leave, come back, and hope that we can catch up where we left off, because we are literally days or weeks or maybe a month away. So once again, taking a look at this, what Dr. Profit is expecting is $120,000 to $130,000 as the next primary target, and basically one of two ways to get there. The first way is to basically bounce and get to 113K and then jump to around 92K. You guys might remember 92,000 is sort of that the fair value gap that we discussed a long time ago, places where we can actually fill in more Bitcoin orders. The other option is we just continue going straight up without having the bounce. So it goes straight up to 112, 113, and then breaks up to 120, 130. So obviously, the paths are quite elementary. This means that if you're holding Bitcoin, likely you're good to hold it. That being said, I know many of you who will say, well, because it can come down to 92,000, I'm going to just dump all my Bitcoin here and just hope it comes down and bear post and get pissed if it keeps going up. We don't know what's going to happen. So my plan over here is I have money on the sidelines waiting to buy Bitcoin at 92K. But I've already got my position ready. And if we come here, I won't be selling any of it. I may sell some altcoins on this bounce to 113, right? We break through all-time highs. But I will not be dumping my Bitcoin. And that way, if we keep going up, I get the accumulation in Bitcoin. If we go down here, I basically increase my Bitcoin exposure. That's my plan, obviously. You guys do whatever you want to do, okay? And basically, one other thing I do want to cover here is I know a lot of people message me, and I see this all over Twitter. Last week, all of a sudden, you see this wallet with about 80,000 Bitcoin moving, and people thought that, oh my God, this is horrible. Somebody's just going to dump on our heads. And as I said, a lot of people, you guys think that you're the main character on Twitter. You're not. I'll just be honest. I'm not the main character. You're not the main character. The moment you find out this information, if there truly was a risk, it would have already been priced in. This stuff would have been dumping, like massively, right? If there was actually something going on. The same thing, I think, somebody in my private group sent me some information about some Ethereum flaw, and I'm like, well, let me tell you something. If number one, we only care about things that will happen and impact us in the immediate term, right? And by the way, for the person who asked, I'll just answer the question here since I was at the gym when you asked. But basically, if there is a flaw in Ethereum, right? Like there was an article sent to me. If there was that flaw, number one, is it time sensitive? Does it impact us right now? If the answer is no, then it makes no difference than me also being told, hey man, the brown gent, you're going to die when you're 80 years old. Okay, well, I'm in my 30s now, so does that mean that I should change everything I'm doing or whatever? No, we do when we get to it. It doesn't impact me right now. It shouldn't change any decisions I make, right? And then the other thing is, if it is in the immediate short term, by the time you get the information, we're not talking about $5. We're talking about billions and billions of dollars. If there was a true impact, this would have already cascaded and Ethereum would have been repriced accordingly. The fact that it hasn't been, it doesn't mean you got some special insider information. It means this is nothing. A nothing burger that will likely just be pointed at to get blamed whenever the market makers want to bring the price down. It's nothing beyond that, okay? So this basically, for the Bitcoin that came out, they're saying it's likely a high-level OTC transfer between a private whale and an institution or a government entity, okay? So this is pretty good. ICO Beast, who I think is a very good follow on Twitter, just in terms of some protocol alpha. Basically, he's also aligned with sort of an all-time high break for Bitcoin on Monday. And he's very bullish and thinking it's like 200K. I've definitely seen a lot of these insane price targets come out. I watch Greg O'Gallagher, who is a Kino body on YouTube for exercise stuff, like talking about incline bench pressing. And all of a sudden the guy started making Bitcoin videos, and it kind of makes me anxious because typically when normies talk about crypto, and this guy was super against Bitcoin a long time ago, it sort of gives you that topping signal. And he's like, yeah, $300,000, $400,000 Bitcoin, man. He's like, I think he's 70% of his net worth in Bitcoin, plus micro strategies and everything, which is, that's cool, right? Obviously, Bitcoin's very, very safe, right? And I do believe that if you're investing in other crypto that is not Bitcoin, you've got to be outperforming Bitcoin to sort of make up for that risk. And it's got to be a significant outperformance, like a 3 to 5x. If you're going to outperform by 1.5x, just do Bitcoin. Same with 2x, just do Bitcoin, So will be very, very interesting because a lot of people are bearish on crypto. And you saw on crypto Twitter, a lot of people are stabled up. I got some stables, and my stables are going to work in perpetual dexes, as I always tell you guys. I just think that's one of the best ways for you guys to print while the market chops around, right? You just buy the bottom, sell the tops, buy the bottom, sell the tops. And then if we ever get this, 92K Bitcoin, I'm ready to shove. Otherwise, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. I'm very, very well positioned, right? Got tons of ETH, Aave, Hyperliquid, and Bitcoin. And also Pepe and Per. So looking at Bitcoin here, nothing has changed, right? Just take a look over here. We're just literally in this range. So things are great. So things are great over here, and literally we got nothing to worry about. If we take a look at the weekly, let's look at the 50 EMA. That is sitting currently at 87.6 thousand. So once again, I do not think you really have anything to worry. And I think, once again, we might come down and grab the liquidity at 92K. If we do, fantastic buying opportunity for you, because it will basically the point here is the people who go long at 113, 114, thinking they're going to miss out, they're the ones who are going to pay the price. It's always late longers. If you have been, I don't want to say devoted, because you guys want to be devoted to my channel, but if you guys were watching and you were over here, right? Over here is where I was telling you guys sell, right? This is the Ethereum sell candle. And over here, we were over here when I was telling you guys, hey, this is your buying opportunity for Bitcoin. So if you got in for Bitcoin in the 74 to 80K range or whatever, why do you care if Bitcoin goes from 113 or 110 or whatever to 92? You don't even feel it. And the reason for that is because you had really good entries. And that's why it's so important to be able to buy at extreme fear. Because guess what? These small things that are going to scare somebody who buys Bitcoin at 110 or 109K and drop 92K, you're like, whatever, man. I'm just going to buy more. Perfect. I know the game, right? So that's basically the market update. Now, tying with this, you don't want this to be you. right? Like this is basically how I picture the average crypto Twitter participant in the summer, watching Netflix, going out there, maybe you're doing some recreational drugs or whatever, right? If you're traveling, that's cool, right? Like do something that expands your mind, do something that keeps your discipline high, like read books. They say touch grass, right? But I really think it's very, very important that you stay on top of the market, because imagine imagine you're practicing for like the finals of the Stanley Cup. And for those of you who don't know what that is, it's like the biggest hockey tournament in North America. And what happens is then you don't play hockey for 5 months before the final game and you expect to just do well. No, you've got to train your sensory acuity. Your sensory acuity is so important because when the market's moving, one, you need to know exactly what's going on. You need to basically understand this very well. You have to put yourself in a position to succeed, basically, right? Like if you show up and you haven't done everything you can to make sure you succeed, then I don't know what you're doing. We live in a time where you can literally sit at home, make money. You don't have to go work at McDonald's. I know people like to joke about that, but you don't have to go do a paper route. You don't do any of these things. The internet, like the computer and the internet, has opened up the possibility of you making life generational wealth, not just for you, but your entire lineage. So you have a responsibility to yourself and your future lineage to do everything you can to maximize what you can get out of this cycle. These cycles don't come around that often. I know we say 4 years, and now people are talking about, well, the 4-year model's broken, blah, 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 blah. We'll believe it when we see it. What your goal should be is how can you make as many dollars as possible? Because the dollars are key, right? Nothing else matters. Like MasterCard is not going to accept your Pengu tokens after they've dropped 98%. Now, I use Pengu as an example, not saying that they will. I'm not saying they will drop like that. But you need to basically have a bunch of cash at the end of the cycle. So you need to be making your plans. What's your spot portfolio look like? What do you want it to look like? These are likely the last times we're sitting at these levels before going much higher. Are you very well positioned? Do you have your portfolio allocation? You guys have seen what my portfolio allocation is, right? I had to rejig it the last couple of months. Why? Because I want to make sure that by the time we go up, I'm in the right assets that I really think will outperform Bitcoin and Bitcoin, obviously. And by doing so, I'm then going to be able to exit as well when everybody else is chasing. Because what will happen, I promise you, is when we do get that massive green candle, we start seeing those green candles, the people who were stabled up are going, oh man, I missed it, but all right, I'm going to Bitcoin at 120, right? And what's going to happen? Well, Bitcoin will pull back from 120 to 110 or something and then go up, and those people will dump again. This is why the market is not one of those things where you literally just have to, you cannot just sort of wait to be, jumping on the bus as it's driving away. You want to be on the bus before that starts. And I think a lot of people you see people on Twitter who love to tell you after the fact, yeah, man, the market jumped and I was in stables. But then the market pumps, yeah, man, the night before I bought everything. That's what Anthony used to say all the time. What you need to know is nobody's going to look after your bags but you. This is also why I tell people, if you want extra coaching, guidance, support, I give these, I don't want to say signals because I hate signals, but I basically tell people, I'm very adamant on what I believe is going on in the market. And, I just constantly barrage with, make sure you're positioned. Make sure you're positioned. This is what I'm buying. Make sure you're positioned. And the reason for that is I don't want you waiting as the train leaves the station and then you're basically just running after it being like, oh, now what? You know what I'm saying? So it's very, very important that you do this. It's very important that you do everything you can this summer. Now, obviously, chop is boring, right? And crypto Twitter is not going to be very entertaining. In fact, there's a ton of drama now talking about, oh, how should you communicate or whatever. Well, if you've got the time and you're like, hey, maybe my bag's not the biggest and, I farmed some airdrops and those airdrops didn't work out as well as I wanted them to or whatever. Well, this is where InfoFi comes in, right? And that's why I I say InfoFi farming season, it's going to be InfoFi farming until everybody's doing it, at which point it becomes unwieldy. That's not the case yet. And also, I believe they will have an evolution. So right now, Kaito has really spoiled us in the fact that they have so many projects that are basically paying for signal, right? What that means is effectively people talking about these projects on the timeline consistently. They get ranked on a leaderboard, whether it's in the last 7 days, the last 30 days, the last 1,000 days, whatever the hell it may be. Maybe not 1,000, maybe it's like 6 months. But effectively, you can either do pre-token generation event boards or post-token generation event boards. The pre-TGE boards are massive because you get tokens that are about to launch an airdrop, right? Whereas post-token generation event, you typically get like dollars, but it's a lot fewer people who qualify. So maybe like top 25, maybe top 25 yappers versus pre-TGE. Like, I got like $2,000 just for talking about human finance for 3 weeks. I made like 7 tweets about them. And if you compare that to the $1,000 I got or $1,500 I got for depositing $15,000 into their protocol for 3 weeks, it's very clear which one's better. 7 tweets versus $15,000, and I got way more with the 7 tweets. And I wasn't saying anything that I didn't believe in. I just sort of shared stuff and said, hey, this is what I think is cool about it. Here's what I'm doing, blah, 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 right? Now, I'm going to share what my friend Am I Toxic is doing. And this is something he did with Skate. He made $18,000 US by talking about Skate and also using their platform. So he was one of the top yappers for this. And even though the Skate price dropped significantly, he still got $18,000 with some more money coming in the next drop as well, which is incredible. So there's a lot of money to be made. And by the way, he's not a massive content creator. He's got 7,000 followers. He had like 5,000 or 4,000 followers like a few months ago, right? So here's the thing, guys, if you go and spend the time, you can invest it. Like, you guys think about skills and everything. This is a way to do it. One thing I will say, and there's been some drama around this post on Twitter. Effectively, a lot of people, whenever you get ways to make money, it always sort of boils down to the lowest common denominator. And some people just don't want to do the work, right? You see that everywhere, right? The same people who try to scam. There's a lot of low quality farmers who will get on the timeline and just basically sort of signal noise, just copy and paste, regurgitate garbage. And then what will happen is they will then move to the next project, the next project, the next project. And this is sort of why I think it's so important. Go ahead and pick 1 or 2 projects that you're very interested in and become like a master about them. Know them inside out, talk about them, engage with other people on the timeline about it. You guys have seen me do this. I did this with virtuals before there was any sort of actual leaderboard. I also do this with Infinex now. And Infinex actually said I was one of the top 10 Yap Run movers this week. I've basically gone from like 700th place to like 120th or 130th with I'm on now the Kaito leaderboard for 7 days and 30 days for Infinex. So it can be done. It doesn't matter how small you are. All that matters is you're willing to continuously share, be consistent, engage with other people in the ecosystem. There are lots of people who have way more leaderboard access, and they've got less than 1,000 followers. They just put in the time and they grind. If you're doing this, please don't get up there and go, okay, I'm going to join 300 leaderboards. No, because you don't then you don't stand for anything. Find which of the projects on here resonate with you. We either one on either side. I would recommend look on this side and then post about it continuously. Obviously try to add value. Now, one more thing is if you compare this to what happened with Eclipse, and I know a lot of people are like, oh my God, what happened with Eclipse? Eclipse crazy, right? What I will say here is they had this whole turbo tap mechanism where you basically clicked on a cow and you had to buy gas or you had to buy clicks, and then you clicked on a cow to farm grass, and that was a sort of active thing. So you click on a mouse, and there's a passive way, which is what I did to earn the airdrop, and basically I got 1,000 something. But basically all you did was you deposited on-chain like assets, and it sort of just accumulated those points for you. This is what I want to show you as an example. This person clicked every free hour every day for almost 3 months. Okay, they canceled on their friends, they canceled on their family. They set a record for clicking 24 hours straight. 7 hours a day sitting there clicking on a mouse. Can you imagine 7 hours a day? Obviously, I don't know if this guy's exaggerating or whatever, but this is insanity. 630 hours, 26 days out of 3 months, and then got 0 airdrop. Can you imagine the lengths people will go to try to earn a few hundred, a few $1,000s, right? Where you could literally go on this and actually build your brand, make it transferable, and talk about a project that you are very passionate about. And I say very passionate about because when I was in sales, one of the things that I was very clear on is I could never sell a product that I truly didn't believe in myself. And as such, like if I hated the product, I just couldn't do it, right? You want to love what you do. You want to love what you talk about. You love what you sell or shill or whatever. In this case, I think Infinex is one of the best things I have seen this year. And the reason for that is I truly believe that there is a massive gap between people who've heard about crypto and people who want to get on chain. And for me, Infinex is that bridge. It bridges everything. I can give my friends who know nothing about Web3 access to Infinex. I send them the website, tell them, follow these instructions to deposit the tokens you have on your centralized exchange to here, and don't use any site but this. And they literally cannot lose. Why? Because it's a closed ecosystem. It is a closed ecosystem that gives me peace of mind because I don't need to supervise them. I don't need to tell them, don't go to this website, don't go to this website, because all they're doing is playing in that closed ecosystem. It's like a sort of playground. That's why I can passionately talk about Infinex. That's why I have been able to make post after post about it, whereas a lot of other people have nothing to say. So all they say is, switch this, switch that, switch every day, switch every morning, blah, 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 blah. Like, you tell me what adds value. Like, for me, I'm like comparing it between Infinex and Ravi Wallet. I'm sort of interviewing people saying, hey, let me know what your experience was, like making guides. How do you beat bull run? Like things like that. This is what you want to focus on. When you love the thing you talk about, when you're passionate about it, it's very easy to keep making content. So find out in here, because remember, Infinex is for me. I have tons of friends who look to me for guidance on how to get started in crypto. These are friends who I have been bothering for year after year after year after year to get into crypto. And now all of a sudden, now that banks are getting in, and now there's an ETF for Bitcoin, everyone's like, oh my God, I need to get in now. So huge for me. Find out which of these projects talks to you, become an expert on it, and get out there and make content and talk to the people who are also making content on this, okay? Now, let's say you're like, hey, I wish I could do that, Brown Jet. I don't got the time, but I do want to build my audience on Twitter. Well, one other thing you can do to make money, earn more Kaito token, right? For those of you who don't remember, Kaito token was given to people, I think it was like 3 months ago, for sort of not like a ratio, but I believe it was very linear to how many yaps someone had earned on the Kaito platform. So the original thing I was just talking to you about over here is about mindshare, right? When we're talking about leaderboards on these, we're talking about mindshare. And what that means is, are you sort of getting a lot of people to sort of engage on your post? Is it positive about the project, right? I would write negative things about certain like projects like virtuals, and I wasn't trying to be negative, but I was being realistic, but criticism didn't really work out for me. So it deranks you, right? It's sort of a preference by the people who have the leaderboards. But if you talk on Twitter and you get engagement from people who are in the inner circle, you will earn yaps. And I want to give you an example of that, right? Because remember, if you want to earn the Kaito token, besides buying it, you can earn yaps, and those yaps will translate into a Kaito allocation. Here's an example. Look at this. I got 38 yaps in the last 24 hours. Beyond that, I didn't earn yaps for a while, but let me show you what I did. I earned in the last 2 days 20.36 plus 34.65, okay? Do you want to see the post that got me effectively 55 yaps? It was this one. Very simple. Ironically, what? No, you're wrong, Dumbo. So here, this has got to be the weirdest way to announce your TGE. Now, I'll be honest with you, I was busy and I should have wrote airdrop claim, but writing TGE here, and for some reason that was the only defense the people who were maxis of Sonic had, was, oh my God, he said TGE, he doesn't realize there's a Sonic token. Yeah, because not that I own the Sonic token or anything, right? But it got a ton of engagement, 15.6K views. Sonic team responded to it or whatever. Boom. You got a lot of engagement. And what does that result in? Well, it gets a bunch of yaps. I'm not saying to come out here and shit on projects, but I have found that when you make tweets that sort of engagement bait, this wasn't an engagement bait, but if there was an engagement baiting, you will get a lot of exposure and you will get yaps, right? Obviously, I was basically criticizing them after what they did over here. Yeah, so anyways, after what they did over here, basically they delayed the airdrop and then said they're going to basically spin a wheel to figure out what day they were going to do the claim. It was just bad. Okay. So with that being said, I want to answer your questions, but first thing I just want to sort of put Dumbo in his place, like engagement tokens. Yeah. I mean, Dumbo, if you know everything and everything's going well, why are you on watching the stream? I'm just curious, man, because I'll be honest with you, there are lots of people here who are here to actually learn how to make money. And I feel bad if you come in here and you think that talking about something you're passionate about is shilling dog shit. Maybe you feel that way about yourself, but if you're truly passionate about what you talk about and share, it's not dog shit. You're not shilling garbage at all. You're actually sharing what you think will add value to your followers. This is not the way, man. Yeah. I'm going to be very clear with you. I don't think you know what you're talking about at all. Dumbo's probably shilling some meme coins, house coin or whatever, but we'll see. All right. We got Too Light here. Good evening from the Netherlands. How you doing? I don't know if that's a question, but I'm doing fantastic. David S., you can't drop a bomb like what I just read in our addressing. Oh, okay. So David is referring to the fact that I will be closing the private group. Just for those who are interested, I stopped taking lengthier enrollments. And the reason for that is there is zero benefit to having sort of a private community open in the bear market. It would just be a cash grab. And I honestly think there's very little to do there besides, learning and sort of, just farming some protocols, but not really that much activity needed. Also, you need some time to sort of recover. This has been a very brutal cycle, and you need to actually dust off, take a break, go enjoy your life, go enjoy the money, right? I sweat this music, by the way. Yeah, thank you. This is Kevin Samuel's theme song, right? He used to play this in all his live streams. Vividry, Your Good Lies. Jordan, it's crazy how people are getting complacent when Bitcoin is at 109K. Yeah, 100%. Can you imagine if you told somebody that Bitcoin would be at 80K 2 years ago when it was at 15K? People would have been jumping for joy. At 109K, it's like somebody took a dump in your cereal, it's crazy how people have this bias, but it's because most of them don't hold Bitcoin, right? Most of them don't. And unfortunately for them, what it means is they're effectively sidelined, right? They're going to sit here and go, oh my God, what am I going to do? They're not really making any money. And likely they just got burnt out chasing meme coins and some garbage. Who's David? I'm assuming David is ex-US in the Web3 Secret Society. Hey, Claudia, how's it going? I'm doing well. I hope you got your Infinix account figured out. That'd be sick. David S is a goat. Cool. Hasuna. How do you put that hand there? I've never seen that emoticon. Streaming on ABS, yeah. Honestly, so Abstract has these poker tournaments every so often. So that's also a really cool thing. So if you go to Discover and you go to an app called Sugartown, it's under gaming, you can participate in these poker tournaments, which is poker tournaments, which is what I will be streaming on Abstract, because it just takes up a lot more time, and I can just sort of discuss it. So we go here, assign this here and show you guys what I mean. Poker. And today is July 7th. So what? Is it done? No way. That's embarrassing. It's all down right now. Okay, that's weird. I have a friend who tested the streaming. He didn't get much. Oh, that's unfortunate to hear. It will be interested, because obviously, you got to build an audience and stuff. That's why I'm also streaming on Abstract right now, to see if that helps, because I don't know how to push people to watch on Abstract. I see we got Super So here. We are here. Cheers. Awesome. And for those of you who can't see it, this is on Abstract. Look at the chat. We also got Nikivo here. No tournaments. Yeah. If you guys don't mind, what happened to the tournaments on Sugartown? They used to have so many. I missed them. I missed them 2 days ago. NW yo. NW always says yo and then never says anything else for the rest of the stream. Let's go BG. I made the strategy every week by 100 pounds of ETH and 100 pounds of Bitcoin. That's awesome. Yeah, dollar cost averaging is great. I think that's incredible. A video that I've been slacking on making is one where basically you want 0.1 Bitcoin at least for your future, just because if you take a look at how much you're getting paid in terms of Bitcoin, it's always going down. So I think especially Bitcoin, that's going to be massive. What are my thoughts on Eclipse and its recent events? It's a tough one. So they're trying this whole new approach, and Alucard has been very transparent here, right? He said, if you're not all in on Eclipse, we don't want you, right? Basically what they're trying to do is make sure their token, which wasn't given to VCs or anything, right? Only given to community members, and basically saying, let's see what happens when we cultivate a community of very loyal people who are super dialed into Eclipse. We give them a bunch of tokens, right? So these are the Eclipse OGs who got 20,000 tokens. This is the Discord role. People who bull posted Eclipse all over the timeline on Twitter all the time, right? And then people who sort of were very active on the platform, right? So some DeFi users, but mainly TurboTap and whatever. And obviously people are upset because there are a lot of people who were using auto clickers. I don't know who did what, but it hasn't been confirmed. Alucard has basically said if you were in the top 100 of TurboTap, they did a manual review. They checked what was feasibly possible, I think, from a human perspective. And if you were above that, it was indicative of using an auto clicker, and they disqualified a bunch of people. These people were maxis of Eclipse, now went on Ethos and started reviewing poorly. And obviously they were the typical Twitter KOLs who got no peace. They wanted something. They never got any sort of favors, because Alucard basically said, nope, we're doing this very differently. We're going to support community. If you are Eclipse everything, then we got you. If you're not, well, that's fantastic. You go somewhere else, right? So it will be interesting to see what happens when the token generation event actually happens and people are able to sell their tokens. If the pre-market is any sort of indication, I believe the price was between 32 and 37 cents. I will be shocked if the price doesn't come down. But hey, maybe this works. And trust me, projects will be watching this. If this model works, where you are only maxis get it, and if the project just, it sustains its value, has I think an FTV of 350 million right now, if it keeps going up, maybe more projects will do what they did. So I think that's sort of the thing here. I don't think, it's hard to get upset with any of this, because all of this was very transparent ahead of time. And obviously, some people are I'm pissed, but I'm not pissed at all. I got 1,000 something tokens. I wasn't on Eclipse everything. I made a few videos on Eclipse. I got 0 credit for it. So what? Doesn't matter. I do hold their ASCs, and I got an insane price. But basically, we'll see how much those are worth. They're going to be dropping the tokens for that individually, and I believe it's time weighted average. That was sort of the rumor, but we'll see how it works, because they don't want people just buying those NFTs off the floor and basically trying to get an allocation now, right? 14-year-old BTC wallet, yeah. Okay. Like I said, we don't know what it is, but if it was some sort of massive whale selling to outside, it was an OTC deal, right? Just a transfer to not affect the price. So I think that banks will want to scoop up lower, like market makers will want to do that, but that's where the move to 92K will likely come into play. Because remember, what market makers do want to do is they want to accumulate and they want to distribute, right? So if you're coming up here, right, let's say you're a market maker, okay, this is the price of Bitcoin. I know I have the axis here, but whatever, okay? So you're a market maker and the price of Bitcoin's here. So that's fantastic, okay? But at this point, you're basically out of tokens. So you can buy tokens from everybody else to send it higher, or you can basically make the market sell and then buy over here. So you buy here instead, and then you send it up. Once you're out of tokens, you send it down. Once you get your fill, send it up again. This is what we typically see. Remember, they accumulate and then they distribute. The market makers don't want to be buying Bitcoin at the highs after they were selling all the way over here. They want to fill their bags again to go to the next level, right? So this is how they work. If they didn't, what would the market makers do? They ran out of tokens and just keep buying from everyone else at all-time highs, and they're the ones who are super exposed. There's zero chance they'll let that happen. If we are using hockey analogy, my altcoin bag is Toronto Maple Leafs. Oh God, that's the worst. I don't think there's a worse team than the Toronto Maple Leafs. You know what I mean? I would say Anaheim back in the day, but even they won a cup. They didn't win a cup. They came second to the Jersey Devils. Did they win a cup after? I don't remember. I think Martin Brodeur won that one. He was pivotal in Game 7 against Anaheim. What does it mean that, say, Injective, etc., moving from Cosmos? Well, Cosmos is a piece of shit, right? So Injective was always Ethereum aligned anyways, and so was Say. Say was always cross-compatible, but Cosmos is just a complete failure, absolute abject failure. No one cares about IBC, which is the Internet of Blockchains, which is what Cosmos was supposed to do. Pretty much what Cosmos was just a cabal of scammers, right? It's no different to me than Pump Fund is now when I look at it, right? It's just, let's launch this coin, let's do an airdrop, get people to jump into, whatever, right? Jump into all these things, buy these tokens, we pay validators, they get emissions from the tokens, and basically their entire ecosystem was, you stake the token, you get more token, and then basically it became, if you held a token and without staking it, you lost money every day because of inflation, right? And eventually no one was buying this shit token, and they all just literally went, not to say to zero, but they're effectively all going to zero. Is Lingo still relevant or is it dead? I have no idea. I just claim my Lingo airdrop every couple of days. There's some draws and stuff, but who cares? You know what I mean? Canceling on friends and family for a tapping airdrop possibility is crazy. Yeah, it's stupid. Best show ever? Good to hear it. I'm not shilling anything, but shilling this engagement dog shit. I don't know what you're talking about, man. You have to understand something. There's the very big difference. I mean, you may think that for you, bro, but if you think that telling somebody, for example, me coming on here and talking about abstract streaming or the poker tournaments here, was I shilling something to you or was I sharing what I'm doing? This is why you have a big disconnect, Dumbo, because you probably shill garbage that you don't believe in. I'm not telling anyone to tell anyone anything they don't believe in. But if you believe in something and you think it adds value to people, I don't see any problem with sharing that with anybody else. And especially in this InfoFi world where you get paid for doing so. If you think that's stupid, you're not too bright. No offense. I bought Hype at 15 and sold half my stack at former all-time high. It's up to you, Amino. At the end of the day, like, I do think Hype will be one of the outperformers. I don't want to give you any sort of financial advice here, but where are we? I think we're like, what, $38 or $39, right? 39.6. Like, we are at like this level, right? Like, so this is a weekly. Damn. Let me just move this. Like, we sort of tested this range, this level right here, right? So I'm expecting this to go parabolic, but I mean, maybe you wait for a retest. You've already got an allocation. It depends, it depends on your conviction, right? I mean, the question you got to ask yourself is, when you sold your stack at the previous all-time high, why did you do it? Did you feel like you were overweight in it? And that's fine. Only you can answer based on the rest of your portfolio how much of a Hype allocation you want to have. And then based on that, make a plan. Look at like potential entry zones. Don't just buy randomly, right? That's my sort of guidance here. What airdrops are there to farm, lending, borrowing, staking with ETH? Most of it, Sean, I would say probably I would look at Hyper EVM. You can use like UETH, or I was telling somebody in another group, basically you can lend out ETH on Aave, borrow Bitcoin, and then lend Bitcoin out as unit Bitcoin on like Felix and stuff. I think Hyper EVM is probably one of the better places you can go to. Also, if you have your Ethereum, like for example, let's say you got like 5 ETH or something, or whatever, you can go into like Backpack. Backpack Exchange is they're doing the season 2. Going to be massive rewards in terms of airdrop. I believe it's going to be an IPO versus an airdrop, because like they're centralized. They're kind of like a centralized exchange of sorts, a regulated centralized exchange, and you can basically use your Ethereum as your margin. So pretty good, and you earn interest on it and everything too. So you can do like small delta neutral trades and do that, or you can actually trade if you know what you're doing. Emotes for YouTube. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, cool. How often do you play poker, and do you see the concerns about poker, online poker, gambling lately? Doug Polk. I watch Doug Polk's almost all his videos. Breaking news or whatever, right? But I don't know. Like if you're talking about like ACR bots and stuff, like, because America's Card Room had a bunch of bots and whatever. For me, I don't play online poker normally. Like, I'm only doing it on Sugartown, and here's why: the competition is so poor. Like, for anyone who actually knows how to play poker, people here have no concept of ranges, have no concept of pre-flop play. They're literally just playing bingo, right? So you can put massive pressure, and like I said, because it's poker, there's still a lot of like luck involved, but your percentages are way better here than at most tournaments that you'll find. So they're having like a World Series of Abstract, whatever. So I want to be there. I see. So, and Nikivo says there are 0 because it's Monday. On Tuesday, there will be more poker tournaments. Fantastic. And Hilji saying follow TBG on Abstract. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, I will start linking my stream to Abstract as well, just so you guys have the link. I want to start like getting people watching over there as well, just because I think it's gonna be. I mean, it's gonna be big for my Abstract bags. I'll be honest with you, but I also think it's a good platform for you guys to check out. That's not true. Once again, I don't. Oh, that's not true for what I said. Yeah. Well, I mean, you broke what I said when you said the hockey analogy thing, right? So yeah. Any thoughts on Jupiter? Yeah, Jupiter's garbage. Here's why. Jupiter was great before, great decks. My problem with Jupiter is it's tied to Sol. Sol, in my opinion, is going to underperform a lot of things. On top of it, Jupiter started doing what Cosmos was doing, which is, hey, let's give all of our friends nice, juicy emissions of our token for nothing. And then what happens? Oh, boom. Why is the Jupiter token not doing well? right? There's a Jupiter ASR you can claim right now. I can't claim it until my stack is done unstacking, and then I will. And then I'm dumping. I'm selling the rest of it. Eclipse tokenomics are not out yet, so don't get pre-market. Yeah, I get it, but here's the thing: like at the end of the day, like if you see some guy, okay, look, here's what I look at, Chris. Imagine a guy who's got a net worth of like, $500. You give them 70,000 tokens for being like clicking on the cow and sitting in Discord talking 24/7. Do you think that this person is going to buy more tokens or sell their stack at launch? My instinct tells me that they would go ahead and quickly grab whatever money they could unless they believed that the price would go up. But I think a lot of people have been burned by airdrops and they should, for the most part, know better. So if you got like 70,000 tokens at a price of 30, let's say 40 cents, that's 28,000 US. Are you going to not take 28,000 or are you going to literally just be like, oh yeah, I hope it goes to 40? We don't know. And that's why it will be a very interesting experiment when the tokenomics comes out and when the ASC allocations are revealed. How much are those compared to everything else, right? All of that stuff. That will help us figure out what will happen. And then once again, does loyalty actually matter in the space? I'm very interested to see this, right? I could not tell you either way how it's going to end up. Instinctively, I expect all airdrop tokens to go to zero, but because they curated this and made sure most of the tokens are in the hands of their biggest supporters, maybe it could be a little different. I don't know. I know that if I got 100,000 Eclipse token, I would be dumping instantly at launch, and that's likely why I didn't get that. I was talking as to poker about the regulations and issues associated with the Better Business Bureau. I'm not sure of all the issues. Here's the thing. Online poker is basically solved. There are like solvers and sort of RTA, real-time assistants. I know people say you can't use them. People are doing them on their phone and whatever. There are ways around it. At the end of the day, poker for the most part is a solved sort of game. Like the solver tells you, okay, they do the X, you do Y. And like it's all game of probabilities. But what I would say is at the end of the day, online is not the way to make money in poker. The way you make money in poker is in real life. And because of that, it's because people are just way worse. They play fewer hands, like fewer hands are dealt. So they are a lot more impatient. And players in real life, like it takes a lot longer for them to lose a lot of money. Whereas online, you can lose everything very fast. When you claim rewards in Beamnode, where does it show up? I have no idea. I tried the same thing, but I'm confused. I'm very disappointed with Beamnode because like they are doing seasons now, and I have no idea what's going on with my node at all. Andrew Cameron, another guy who always does this. If I look at my comment, I appreciate that. I appreciate the support, Andrew. He's got a brand, the thumbs up and the Canada flag. Oh, the beautiful bill, the big beautiful bill. Okay. There's an issue with regulations and taxation. Yeah, the thing is, I live in Dubai now, right? So I have to deal with it. And in Dubai, like we can't play poker, right? The only reason I can get away with it here is because it's not effectively for money, like the way Sugar Town works. But if I try to go on like, party poker, any of that stuff, it's all bad here. You can't do any of it, right? So it will be interesting when the casino comes to Ras Al Khaimah in the UAE. I will likely be moving there. That's the Wynn Casino is coming there. Cannot wait. But yeah, like I've not played any sort of cash game poker in so long. It will be very interesting when I travel and get to play. So yeah, no problem. All right, guys, it's been about an hour. Thank you so much for watching, whether you tuned in on Twitter, whether you tuned in on YouTube or on Abstract, which, would always appreciate you guys showing the follows there. As always, thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed tonight's video. Truly believe that we got some incredible opportunities ahead of us. Don't be complacent. Make sure you made your plan for the year. And at the end of the day, I think it's super important for you guys to make sure you have your plan, your specific portfolio that you want to have, and then execute on it because that time is coming very, very soon. So as always, thanks again for watching. Until next time, I'll see you later. Good night.